Hello, dear ones. If you're listening to this, it means you're giving an old heart a moment of your precious time. And oh, how time plays with us softly, silently, without asking permission. One day you're running barefoot through puddles, laughing at the sky, and the next, you're wondering why your knees creak every time you get up from the sofa. Let me tell you this, time doesn't steal. It exchanges. It takes your speed, but it gives you stories. It takes your smooth skin and offers in return a map of where you've been, of who you loved, of what you survived. Some call it aging. I call it transformation. When I was young, I chased time. I woke up early to race it, afraid to fall behind. I made lists, goals, and worried about being late for life. I believe success came with urgency. But now, I sit with time like an old friend. We don't talk much, but we understand each other. There's a certain beauty in watching the world slow down with you. You begin to notice things you missed. The way light changes through a window at 3 p.m., or how a sparrow hops rather than walks. You realize that the world doesn't owe you anything flashy. It just keeps turning, offering small miracles for those who are still enough to see them. Time, you see, doesn't whisper regrets. People do. And people will say, I wish I had done this or that. But time just keeps going. It doesn't punish. It invites. It asks gently, what will you do with me now? And my answer nowadays is simple. I'll sit in the sun. I'll listen to the wind. I'll remember the way my mother's hands felt when I was ill. I'll call a friend just to say nothing at all. Because those are the things I missed when I was younger, when I thought loud meant important and busy meant worthwhile. If I could speak to my younger self, I'd say, hurry less, hug more. Don't wait for the weekend to dance. And please stop worrying about what people think of your shoes. Because time is not a race. It's a companion. Sometimes quiet, sometimes cruel, but always honest. So if you're counting your years with dread, stop. Count your moments instead. Count the laughs, the quiet mornings, the times you held someone's hand and meant it. Let time teach you. Let it shape you, not scare you. And remember this, my dear, every wrinkle is a memory that dared to stay. So wear them like medals. You've earned them. And the best part? Time isn't done with you yet. Not even close. You know, some of the deepest wounds we carry, they never broke the skin. No stitches, no bandages. Just quiet aches, tucked beneath our smiles, wrapped in the polite phrases like, I'm fine, and it was a long time ago. But pain has a memory, and it whispers. I remember my first heartbreak like it happened this morning. Her name was Evelyn. She had a laugh that made you feel like sunshine had chosen you. And one day, she left, no drama, no shouting, just an empty seat and the scent of her scarf lingering in the hallway. I didn't cry that day. Not because I wasn't hurting, but because I thought grown men shouldn't. Foolish, isn't it? As the years went on, more wounds came. The sudden loss of a friend, a word I wished I hadn't said, a father I never got to forgive. These things don't shout. They murmur in the dark when the house is quiet and everyone else is sleeping. But here's what time taught me. Pain, too, deserves a seat at the table. You can't outrun it. You can't drink it away or hide it beneath busyness. Believe me, I've tried. The only way out is through. And when you finally sit with your pain, look it in the eye, it changes. It stops being a monster and becomes a teacher. Pain teaches empathy. It softens sharp edges. It reminds you that everyone is fighting a silent battle. Even the cheerful neighbor who always waters their plants at 6 a.m. sharp. Even the grumpy old man who never returns your smile. You learn not to judge. Because you've been there, maybe you're still there. And strangely enough, pain makes room for beauty. It carves space in you where kindness can live. It teaches you to check on your strong friend. To say, I'm sorry first. To hold someone's hand a little longer than usual. So no, not all wounds heal. Some become part of you, but they don't have to define you. They can refine you. I still think of Evelyn, not with bitterness, but with a quiet gratitude for what we had and what I learned when it ended. I still think of my father, and sometimes I whisper apologies to the sky, hoping they land somewhere kind, because healing isn't always about fixing. Sometimes it's about HONOURING. So if you're carrying something heavy, let me say this: you're not broken. You're just becoming. And that's the most human thing in the world. Let it hurt. Let it soften. And then let it shape the love you give tomorrow. Love. The great mystery, the favorite topic of poets, singers, and teenagers with too many hormones and not enough perspective. But let me tell you something that doesn't quite make it into the fairy tales. Love isn't always roses and fireworks. Sometimes it's showing up every day, even when you'd rather hide under the DUVET. My idea of love changed dramatically over the years. When I was young, I thought love meant passion letters soaked in cologne, dramatic declarations in the rain, and kisses that made your knees weak. And yes, I had a few of those. But do you know what really stayed with me? The quiet moments. The way she knew I liked my tea just a little bitter. The way we could sit in silence for an hour and still feel like we'd spoken volumes. The way she'd place her hand on my back during hard times, not to fix anything, just to say, I'm here. That, my dear, is real love. Real love is patient. It's laundry folded without being asked. It's tolerating bad jokes for 40 years and still laughing, like it's the first time. It's arguing over silly things like thermostat settings and toothpaste tubes, but never forgetting you're on the same team. Love is choosing each other, again and again, even on days when you don't feel very lovable. And sometimes, love ends. Not with slammed doors, but with hospital beds and goodbye whispers. That's the part the poems forget. They don't tell you how to hold someone's hand while they slip away. They don't tell you about the silence after the funeral, or how hard it is to sleep on just one side of the bed. But even then, even in loss, love leaves something behind, a way of seeing the world, a softness in your voice, a song you hum while doing the dishes. So no, love isn't always a grand affair. Sometimes it's remembering to buy their favorite bread. Sometimes it's letting them have the last word, even when you know you're right, which I always was, by the way. But don't tell her I said that. And if you're still waiting for that storybook romance, let me tell you this: don't look for perfect. Look for someone who sees you clearly and still wants to stay. Because at the end of the day, love isn't just something you feel. It's something you do. Day after day. Cup after cup of tea, even when it's gone a little cold. Loneliness. That word. So simple, yet so vast. You can be surrounded by people, chatter filling the room, and still feel lonelier than a pebble on the moon. It's not about company. It's about connection. About someone looking at you and truly seeing you. I used to think loneliness only visited the old. But no, it visits everyone. At 20, when your friends move on. At 40, when you're lying in bed next to someone who no longer listens. And yes, at 78, when your phone rings less and less and the house echoes more than it used to. But here's the thing I've learned. Loneliness isn't always a punishment. Sometimes it's an invitation to listen to yourself, to find beauty in your own company, to dust off the books you never had time to read, to bake bread not because someone's coming, but because you like the smell, and when it gets too heavy, because it does laugh. Not the polite kind. I mean the kind that makes your belly jiggle. Watch silly old comedies. Call that one friend who always tells stories backwards. Laugh at yourself, at your forgetfulness, at the fact you've just put your glasses in the fridge again. Because laughter is rebellion. It tells the loneliness, you may sit here, but you won't rule. And don't wait to be invited. Invite yourself to the garden, to the market, to life. You don't need a full room to feel full. You just need moments that feel real. So if today felt quiet, maybe that's all right. Maybe it's space being made for something new. And if no one told you this lately, let me. You matter. You are not invisible. Your story, your smile, your slightly off-key humming, it matters. And someone, somewhere, is grateful you exist, even if they haven't said it out loud yet. But I just did, and I meant every word. Funny thing, isn't it? How we spend most of our lives trying to run from silence, and then one day, without warning, we realize it's the only one still keeping us company. You see, no one tells you that after the noise fades, after the kids stop calling, as often after the door doesn't knock quite like it used to, you're left with is silence. And at first, you think it's cruel you put on the radio. Not because you want to dance, but just to prove to the walls that someone's still alive. And Harrio, talk to the kettle. And to the cat who's long stopped replying, you laugh at old sitcoms, not because they're funny, but because the quiet is louder than the jokes. But then something strange happens in morning. You don't rush to fill the space, yo. Don't chase a sound. You just sit cup of teas and light on the table. And for some reason, you let it be quiet, and in that quiet, you'll hear something else. Say, hear the sound of yourself, not the version you used to show the world, but the one that's been quietly sitting in the corner waiting to be noticed. And maybe you think, well, this is odd, but also not so bad, because there's something beautiful about it. This kind of peace, of this kind of buying that being for somewhere, being useful, not being busy, just buying. And I want to say this clearly, that is a new you. Are enough. You've done the noisy years, crowd-pleasing years, prove something years, saying now is the season of gentle. Trust it. Maybe you still carry wounds, maybe. You still think of someone who left, or someone who never truly saw you, or someone you said goodbye to without meaning toys. Those thoughts, Komethi Nakti, sit beside you at breakfast. Here's the miracle. They don't crush you anymore. They just visiting. Then they leave, and you're still Hera, still standing still, making toast that's slightly too brown, still whispering thank you to no one in particular. And if some days you feel invisible, know this, you're not invisible. A rarari, like an old tree that's seen too many winters, rare, like a melody no one writes anymore, and like someone who knows how to sit with silence and smile at it. So no, this isn't loneliness, not anymore. This is your music. Now this is your tempest load full of pause. And isn't it lovely how the quiet turned out to be the friend that stayed? So pour the tea wrap up in that cardigan that smells like rain in memoriam. Let the clock tick, because this is not the end. This is the part of the story no one claps for, but it's the part that matters most. Is where you learned it, even with a softer voice, even with fewer people around, even with more silence than sound. You are still love, AO, are still light, you are still home, and darling, you always were. And now, dear hearts, if you've made it this far, thank you from the softest corner of our story to yours. Thank you for listening, for feeling, for remembering, because in a world that moves too fast, you chose to pause, sit with these words, still breathe with the quiet in that matters more than you know. If this little series whacked to Luca, Dan Cinta has stirred something in you, even just a smile, a tear, a memory, we'd be ever so grateful if you'd share it with someone who might need it too. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And if something here truly spoke to you, please leave a comment below to us what part of your story touched it. And if you have thoughts, sucks, or gisslins, nudge, or even things you think we could do better, we welcome your feedback with open arms. This isn't just a video. This is a conversation, a warm space we're building together for those who live it woe, vel lost, and who still believe in love quietly. Bravella, so thank you for being part of that, for being exactly who you are, for reminding us of it. Time may pass, but hearts still speak. We'll see you in the next one. Until then, be kind to your wounds, gentle with your memories, and generous with your hugs. The hour never too old to begin again or to share a bit of love forward. Cheers. And with all our thank you.